Hello and g'day. In today's video, I'm going to show you a junk journal I've made that's a soft hardcover as a guest designer for Tracie Fox Creative. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge to show it all to you. I'm going to have to bring it up like this and take it down like this, turn it around because it's 12 inches tall. This journal features a dye sublimation print. This is a fabric cover. It's not paper. It's a soft fabric cover over a hard bookboard. So you're probably wondering, what is sublimation printing? Sublimation printing is a flexible digital print that can be printed onto a special substrate, paper, and then transferred by heat press directly onto a fabric. You know, like the ones you see that is done for t-shirts and then they put it in a heat press? Same thing. Only I've had it done on this polyester fabric and then I've made it into my book cover. The journal is soft to the touch, but it's also firm. So it won't bend. Right, so it's got a hard bookboard on the inside of this fabric, but it is soft to the touch. It's got a padded wadding on the inside of it between the fabric and the bookboard. You can see how thick that is. Right, we've got a curved, narrow spine. It's 1 inch wide. It's 12 inches tall by 5 3/4 inches wide, which is 30.5 centimetres tall by 13 centimetres wide. It's got 5 signatures. Each signature's got 8 pages in it. So in total, that is 16 front and back pages of each signature. Inside the signatures, I've got vintage pages and a couple of almost antique pages. One from 1927 and one from 1928. So another 7-8 years, they'll be antiques. The main features of this journal are the digital designs from Tracie Fox. Tracie Fox is known as Love Junk Journals, and she's also known as Fox Creative. This print here is one of her designs. This is from the kit called Tattered Paint Pages Set 2, and it's called Grungy Peeled Paint Effect. This particular pattern is the PP Set 2A. Isn't that just beautiful? And when you print it on this fabric, it is just gorgeous. The colours come out just beautiful. They're quite rich and deep. I've also used inside the book the digital kits called Oddments and another kit called Random Number Labels, Digi 1993. Now there's a few of these numbers, so if you like this one in particular, it's the first one out, Digi 1993. And I love these little random numbers. It comes in 2 sheets. These are just the browns, and it comes in a colour sheet as well. And you'll see these scattered throughout the book. Now, for people who are not familiar with using digi-kits, you might ask, why would you use a digi-kit for pages in your junk journal? Well, not everyone has the money to buy vintage magazines and books. Not everyone's timing is perfect to walk into a charity shop and pick up a book with beautiful illustrations of butterflies and beautiful flowers and plants. Then you've got the lucky ones who have got these beautiful books and can't cut them up. They just can't bear to cut up an Edith Holden book or any book with some beautiful illustrations in them. Does this sound like you? If it does, a digital kit is what you can get, like the ones Tracie makes, and that would be perfect for you. I've used some original ephemera, some original pages from old magazines, Australian magazines, and I've mixed them with Tracie's digital kits. And you can see how beautiful they go together. You're not setting concrete on the way you can use these printables in your journal. You can cut them up and use bits of them like this. Okay, now I'm just going to start the flip through and show you how I've made this journal. Look how big it is. 2 hands. 2 of my hands tall. We'll start from the cover. I've made the cover. It's soft, like when you press it, it's spongy, all right? But it's firm on the inside. This is tiny, tiny miniature buttons on a navy blue cardstock for the cover of the inside. There's a nice lace trim between the fabric and the cover, the inside cover here, and that's just peeking out just enough to see from the outside of the cover. The first page, I've used a homemade vellum. So it's just tracing paper with a print of some blueprint coffee jugs. I've just cut the windows out into tea-dyed paper and used Tracie's random numbers there. Okay, so it's just tea-dyed paper here. So there's plenty of journaling space here. So this journal is a mixture of pages that you can put things in and plenty of room for journaling. This is a vellum pocket and it's got a leaf print on it, and that's been sewn first and then glued down onto the page. This piece here is from the Oddments kit and it's from page ephemera number 1. So all I've done is printed out the page and then cut it out into a tag. On the back, I've made it into a journal card and just put a stamp on the top there. The same sheet had another card that had the alphabet on it. It's like one of those eye charts, and I just cut that up and manipulated it, turned it into a bit of a decoration for the pocket and glued that on there. More journaling space here. And this here is an ad from an old woman's day, and this is from 1959. So this is original. It's quite fragile actually. You can see the rips in the pages, and they were there when I picked this up. They're from original wear and tear. So that's been folded there so I could keep the full page intact. Another journaling page of just tea-dyed paper. This is a vintage envelope. It's an Australian envelope from 1993 in Fremantle, Western Australia. You could use it for postage, but most people just buy these as collectors. So it's not intended to be used for postage. It's more for collecting. More journaling space. This is a basic tag. I've kept it plain because it can be journaled on, but it's also from the Oddments sheet, and it's from sheet number 6. It's got a Tim Holtz tiny clip on the top, and that's one of these little tiny clips. And it's also got a Tim Holtz index clip on there. I've just put the 2 on there. They can be put wherever you want. They don't have to be kept there. And that's the reverse side of the same Oddments number 6 sheet. More journaling space. This is a vellum page sewn onto a tea-dyed page. So it comes out on the other side exactly the same. There it is on the back. So it's just vellum in the middle, like that, and tea-dyed papers on the edge and just sewn into place. This is an original hand-typed recipe from my mum's book, and this is a ship log ledger, and it's a page out of the ledger from 1928. This is a Tim Holtz, what are these called? A hinge clip. This is a hinge clip from Tim Holtz, and this is some packaging, and it's also from the Tim Holtz packaging, and I've just put some tea-dyed paper on the back, and that's a weed from my garden, and I've just pressed it and put a piece of vintage calico in there. The background paper is also from the Oddments, and it's from it's the Oddments ephemera, page 5, and it's the flash card. So you'll see that on there. That's the little flash card piece, and I just cut that out and shaped it and made that into a specimen card. But that's just the packaging that, you know, some people throw away. Not us journalists. No, no, no. So I've got that there, and that just peeks out the side of the book. This is some vintage sheet music, and it's the Ave Maria. I'm pretty sure most of you have heard that song somewhere along the line. I don't know how old that sheet was. I forgot to look it up. This is the reverse side of the ship log ledger. It's really good old paper. It's not fragile at all. The reverse side of the recipe and the vellum tea paper. This sheet here is a French ledger. It's the divider that was in between all the ledger pages. So this piece is from 1927. This is also vintage, just lined. I forget what this, it's like a book, but it's not an exercise book. It's a much taller one. This is a tea-dyed piece of paper, and I've just put a ticket book on there. That's been stapled onto a background, and this piece here is off the Oddments ephemera page 3, and the tickets are off page 2. I've just cut the layaway ticket down and made it into a background and reinforced it with a whole reinforcer on there. But these tickets, I've also perforated them in between, so I can actually come along and rip that off. Any of those tickets can be ripped off. And the Create Something Awesome today is the vintage Dymo label maker. That's scrapbook paper on top of tea-dyed paper. This is Deli Paper. I've put this through the printer, and I've printed the Oddments sheet 5 on this one. I love how it turns out on the Deli Paper. More journaling space, tea-dyed. That's the back piece of the French ledger. This piece here is also Deli Paper. It's been printed and sewn. So I've backed it with a piece of tea-dyed paper, but I let it run short on this side. So that is just the tea dyed paper. I've reinforced the corners because it's quite difficult to just sew onto deli paper on its own. So just reinforce the corners. So on this side, you've got the deli paper showing. And on the, let me find the back side. On the back side of it, it's the reverse. So I've got the tea dyed paper showing and the deli paper runs short. But I love how that worked out. This is another vintage piece that's from our Australian Woman's Weekly. Years ago, from 1967, we used to get the Woman's Weekly, and occasionally in those Woman's Weekly, they'd put an insert magazine. And this one was called Domestic Blessings. So it would give you, this one in particular, care and storage tips. So these are actually real storage tips. So you can really read these and use them. Again, what I've done, it comes out the other side here. It's quite big, so it's usable. You can actually read this and use the tips. So I've folded them in there and kept them in their entirety. This is a map. We've got Canberra on this side and Sydney on this side. This is from an old diary that my husband used to use. This is another recipe from my mum's cooking book, and it's the conversion chart. So it's not a recipe, it's the conversion chart out of the recipe book that she had. The other side of the diary map paper and the other side of that insert that I showed you. This page here, all I've done is I've printed out the envelope. This envelope is printed, instead of printing it on normal like heavy card or light card, I've got this off the Oddments ephemera sheet 4 and I printed it onto a heavy book paper. So I've taken the book paper out of the book and it's of a pretty good weight, and I put that through my printer. I cut it down to, we use A4, so I cut it down to A4 size and I put this through the printer. So the envelope printed onto the paper page. Then I glued that down to turn it into a flip, and I created a nice front focal point for the envelope. That is washi tape along there. That is one of my own faux blank stamps, and I just doubled it up across there, and it's actually a little pocket. So what this here, these two stamps on this piece of paper, I collected when I was a child. So probably I was between 8 and 12 years old. I have my own stamp collection. So that one there and that there and these are from my child stamp collection. So they are pretty ancient. These little stamps here are a printable that I've got on my website for download. So these are just little modern stamps. So I've mixed the two together. I've got some older stamps and some more modern stamps stuck in there with it. So that there, I just didn't want to fill up Tracie's nice print here in the corner. I didn't want to put the stamps over that. I really liked it, so I avoided that area and just went for this area here. This one here is, I've made a Polaroid, and it's just the Polaroid background. This picture here is from the Oddments ephemera number 2, and what I've done there is I've just cut out the Polaroid and coloured it, and I've put a faux tea dyed paper on the back, and this is from my good friend Tuesday Moriarty. She's got a lovely faux paper kit there of different coffee dyed papers, and that saves me doing this myself. So I've just printed that on the back and the same coffee dyed paper on the front, and then I've printed out Tracie's Oddments ephemera number 2, and then just cut out that picture and use that as my picture. And I also made use of the Love Junk Journal's little logo that it was at the bottom of Tracie's sheet, and one of the random numbers as well. So I really liked that one, how that one turned out. This is just one of the little paper clips out of my own stationery set, and I've just got some of the fabric from the cover and just glued that on with the fabric glue, and I sit that there just to fill in this space at the top. It's not permanent, and I just sit that there because I think that looks pretty good, just hanging out the top of the book there, and it matches so nicely. So that's the other side of that paper I showed you before. This is the last signature, and it's got that little window poking through there. So I've just cut that window out, stitched down a piece of vellum and more journaling space. And the print on this deli paper is the Oddments number 1. More recipe sheet. The other side of the Oddments number 1 on the deli paper, and more journaling. This last page here is tea dyed paper with a wraparound to make it into a pocket. I'll pull these out for a second. Right, this sheet here is from the Oddments ephemera number 5 sheet. I enlarged it so it was as tall as my pages, and then I put it here, and when it got to the edge of the page I folded it around so it's wrapped, glued there, which gives interest on this last page, and it's a pocket here on this page. Right, these are my blank Polaroids and the faux tea dye, so it just makes them just that little less bulky. So when you're making these up, all you've got to do is get one of the sheets. Say, you know, when you're printing all this out, you've always got bits and pieces left over off one sheet. So you just cut that out and just colour it up with some distress ink and put that on there and cut one of the other pieces out, and you go from this to this. So I'm putting these 3 in here for anyone who wants to make their own little Polaroids. Okay, now what else goes with this book? Oh, and I've got the same pattern on the back to finish it off with the same little lace trim. I have not decorated this journal. I've left it like this because the feel of this is a sort of journal that once you've got in your hand, you appreciate it. A picture of it and a video of it doesn't do it justice. It really feels really nice. It's lays flat when you open it. Every page lays flat. It's so easy to use and it feels beautiful in your hand. I could have gone ahead and decorated it, and I'll just show you what it might look like if you wanted to decorate it. Say if you put that on there and you put that on there, that's spilling over the edge and it still looks nice. I'll grab a piece of, just a little piece of silk. If you've got the right piece of fabric and you really wanted to tie it up, but I mean, this is not an alligator mouth. It's not overstuffed. You could easily dress it up if you wanted to and finish it off some more. If you were the type of person that really love embellishment, there is no reason why you can't add more to this and, you know, like just turn it into something more. I'll bring that down a little bit more and put that there. So, you know, like there are a few different things that you could do to this. To me, it doesn't need a lot because the fabric is so beautiful. But you could certainly do that if you wanted it to be a coffee table type of book and you wanted to show it off. I've made a few extra little bits and pieces. I've made a long skinny tag, and the reason I've done this is because there's lots of little bits and pieces of paper and things left over. So I've made a long skinny tag, and that's also just off the bottom of one of the printables. And Tracie, you'll probably get a laugh out of this, but the Oddment, a piece of something, I thought that was such a great name to put on the bottom of your sheets. So I felt I needed to use that. I've got another envelope here, and I used the same book paper as I did on the envelope that's inside this beautiful journal. And that's just got a sticker on it, and love junk journals again, and some more washi tape at the bottom. That can be added to, you can finish that off with some lace and some more things. And I also just put a stamp on there. Currently September 22, that was the day I made it. So we've got that. This is just a shop bought tag, and I made an envelope. I'll show you this. This is so typical of junk journalers. I made an envelope and I printed it upside down. So if you can see this, the feathers and the writing shows the right way up. This one here, I put the book page in the wrong way, and the words are upside down, and the print of Tracie's envelope is upside down. So I thought, I'll need to use this for something else, or I could have used it upside down. But instead of doing that, what I'd done is I turned it over. That was the flap of the envelope that would have went over here. So I cut it off, I cut that flap off, and I used that part of it, I glued it on the back of there, and I've turned this little tag into a journaling card. So I've used one of the random numbers and a piece of fabric on the front there. It's still got the lovely print on it from the envelope, and I've turned it over and I've hand drawn some journaling lines. Admittedly, you'd have to use a white gel pen, which is what I use to draw the lines. You'd have to use a white gel pen to journal on this. You know, like a black pen probably wouldn't show up, but waste nothing. So if you print something upside down, turn it into something else. So that's how I come about making this little envelope flip down card or tag. This is another, just a tag that's just a basic shape, and I've used some of the random numbers again. The random numbers have got so many uses. Just, you know, once you've cut that sheet out, you'll want to put them everywhere. So we've got that one as well. And then this one here is just a double style tag. They seem to be pretty popular at the moment. And I've used the same paper and put a lace edge trim on it with a punch, and put some really old vintage linen on the top of that, and just done a random stitch. And that's the faux coffee paper that I mentioned earlier that Tuesday makes, that I put on the back. So that's that one. And here's another one that I used. This was just a piece of card stock that was from the inside of a book. When I took the book apart, that was left over. So I made a tag out of that. And that was another one of the sheets of Tracie's kit. And I just printed that on the book page as well. And that just gives that nice subtle picture of that lady there. And I really like that one as well. So that turns out into a tag. And you know, all these things go with this too. These are only 3 kits, right? You don't have to go and buy 5 or 10 kits to make up a journal. You can keep it as simple as you like and then make lots of more things by introducing a colour. So instead of just using your browns and your tea dyed, introduce a colour that matches here. So I've introduced the blue. If you'd like to have a look at the kits that I've picked up and showed you today in this journal, I'll put the links below in the description box. Thanks very much, Tracie. I love working with you. I'm Donna from Junk Journal Ideas, and bye for now.